Uganda is divided into two.
The Chinese have a saying where they say, when you have a problem, ask the young, they know everything. It is not meant to be a compliment. It simply says that they think they know everything. The real society is composed of young and old people. That is the real society. And I hold the view that leadership is intergenerational. And the young must learn from the old, but the old must also know when to leave. There are some fellows who think, he says that God has allowed him to stay. Which God? God tells Moses to leave and allow Joshua to take charge. So you've got to, if you are not a leader unless you mentor people. And mentorship, I always tell my young people that you are not a leader if you cannot show me at least 10 young men and women who are better than you. That is what leadership is all about. If you want to be the only dancer on the floor, then you are not a leader. You are destroying people. So you must ensure that when you get into any position of influence, then you use that position to mentor young men and women. And the youth must remember that youthhood is not a permanent state. You are youth today, and a few years later you are not a youth. So so your period of youthhood, if you may, is very short. Youthhood is not like being man and a woman. Man and a woman, once you are man, you are man. At least the last time I checked. And once you are woman, you are woman. So let us be very slow in having this very blanket, general negative view about people because of their age. I know young people whose minds are like Methuselah in the Bible. And I also know old people whose minds are as fresh as if they were 18 and 25. Let us deploy that intellectual firepower for the sake of our nation. And if the balance is good and right, then it can be done. And Nelson Mandela was very right, particularly, that you cannot, in all consideration, tie down the bulk of your population. Africa is the youngest continent today. The average age is about 18. Some say it is even 16. And you only have to drive, even as you go into rural Zambia and rural Africa, see the number of young people, which means that those young men and women must be taken care of. And we must use this youth dividend to our advantage. History has demonstrated not once, not twice, all of us are susceptible to abuse power. All of us. And therefore democracy is guarded by eternal vigilance. I can imagine the current president. Allow me a little imagination, Honorable Minister, that's because I leave on Monday anyway. So I'm allowed a little imagination. I can imagine that your administration, your party has this blueprint and is all good. You possibly want to have a lean, mean government, but somebody emerges from somewhere and say, you know, we have been in this thing together, you have only 26 million, add another one. And then you say, which one? He says, your ministry, science and technology. You say, let's slice technology, and we give it to somebody else. Then somebody comes by, before you know it, you have 50 ministries. Because you want to please people. So it requires resolute. You will annoy some, you will harm some, and all is in the best interest of the country. It's the famous St. John who said, nobody can govern guiltlessly. We'll all make mistakes, but we must not persist in our stupidity. And I think that is what we must not do. And I must say that elections are in and of themselves an opportunity to market your ideas in a laboratory situation. When you get into the arena, then you discover that the laboratory is quite different. There are too many variables outside of the laboratory. And you begin to discover that they are civil servants. They are civil servants who can wait you out. I'm told that what the Afghanis normally tell people who invade the Afghanistan, they say, you have the watch, but we have the time. There are also civil servants who say, you have 5 years, but we are permanent and pensionable. And therefore they wait for you to do your things. And what I must say, therefore, is that all these things are doable. It is not for the faint-hearted. And all of us must try to play our part, whatever it is, in our own small way. And if we do, then we will make our country.
Hello, Africa. Welcome back to my YouTube commentary. This is Neo Africa, where we tell African stories. Now, as you have seen on the title, Uganda is divided into two. Okay? Uganda is divided into two. It's not divided by a tribe, not divided by borders. No. During this election time, it is divided by age group, youth, generation, and older generation. Okay? Now, let me explain that. Ugandan youths are the most, Uganda is a very youthful country. Like the younger generation is like 75%. And on this election that is coming, it is evidence showing that the youths are like, you know what, we want change. But the older generation, some of them, they don't want change. Then they want to remain with Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, you know. And one thing for sure, the Ugandan youths, they want to change because they went to school, respected authority, they have learned skills, they have waited their turn. And what they get in return, there's no jobs, there is no capital, there is no political voice, there's no dignity. And you cannot keep telling young people to wait. You cannot keep telling young people like your time is coming until they get older. When is their time coming? And this is what is giving them headache. And that's why they want that change. Because this generation right now was sold a lie. You know, they were told one thing: if you study hard, you will succeed. And students, the youths have gone to school. They have studied hard to get the higher grades. But what they end up with is their papers just at home. You know, Uganda produce graduates for a market that does not exist. They produce degrees without opportunities, certificates without an industry, you know, brains without power. And education without an employment becomes humiliation. You know what I mean? And this is where Bobi Wine enters the story. Let's be honest. Bobi Wine is not a political, or is not a politician to the youth. Bobi Wine, he is a mirror to the youths. He is a symbol and he is a message. He speaks like the youths. He comes from where they come from. He represents possibility. And the system hates him not because he is dangerous. No, the system hates him because he is relatable to the youths. The biggest fear of our system is not Bobi Wine. The biggest fear to this Ugandan system is the youth's unity. Because when youths unity fear, or when youths unite, force becomes visible. When youths unite, propaganda falls. When youths unite, fear disappears. And that's why the response is always violence. You are seeing the campaigns. The response is always arrest. The response is always internet shutdowns and intimidation. You know, a confident government does not fear young people. A government that knows what they are doing does not fear young people. For example, Burkinabe. Ibrahim Traore does not fear young people because he is doing what the young people want. He is resonating with the young Burkinabes, you know. And when I talk about the elders, it's not that the youth are not respecting elders, but honestly, many elders lived through Idi Amin, many elders lived through civil war, they lived through economics collapse, they lived through insecurity, and to them, stability is sacred. So when they see protest, they don't see democracy, they see trauma returning. And this is why many clinch to Yoweri Museveni, not because life is good, but because fear is powerful. Elders, they vote from memory. Youths, they vote from imagination. Elders, they ask, will we survive? But youths ask some question, will we ever live? That's difference alone. It explains everything, you know? Now, the most dangerous part is the youths are not being listened to. They are being managed. When a government responds to questions with buttons, when a government responds to questions with guns, it's admitting one thing here: weakness. So silencing the youth does not remove anger. It stores anger. And history is very clear. Stored anger always explodes. One of these fine days. And what's happening in Uganda is not unique. Across Africa, youth population are rising. Across Africa, all leaders refuse to step aside. Across Africa, digital awareness is spreading. Economic cannot absorb graduates. And Uganda is simply ahead of the curve. Now, demographic do not negotiate. So every year, more youths, they turn 18. Every year, fewer elders control relevance. Old narrative lose power. And you can delay change, yes, but you cannot cancel that change. It will surely come on one of these fine days. And let me say this clearly, my personal reaction on this, the youths and the old, my personal reaction, this is not anyone. You can arrest leaders. You can beat protesters. You can shut down the internet, but you cannot arrest an idea whose time has come. You get me? You cannot arrest an idea whose time has come, and Uganda's youth's awakening is irreversible. Okay? It's irreversible. That's according to the system. Ugandan youths are not wrong. They are just early. And the elders are not evil. They are afraid. But fear cannot be a national policy. No country progress by suffocating its future to comfort its past. That's my reaction. You get me? That's my reaction. Let me say this. When a government stops explaining and starts beating, it's no longer governing. It is surviving. So Ugandans today speak more through tear gas. They speak more through batons, through arrest, through court intimidation. They speak more through all this force than dialogue. They don't speak with dialogue. So the state is afraid of its own children. A confident government debates. That's reality. A legitimate government pursues. A secure government, they listen. But a fearful government, it reacts. Every protest is met with violence. Every youth leader is criminalized. Every gathering is framed as chaos. Why? Because the system knows something critical. It has lost emotional authority over the youths. Here's the dangerous trick being played. Young Ugandans are not just opposed, but they are being rebranded as enemies. Okay? They are labeled as unpatriotic. They don't want Uganda to kuendelea mbele. They are being labeled as violent, as foreign influence. And this is intentional. Because once you criminalize a group, you justify any action against them. And history has been this playbook before. And in every playbook, it never ends well. Okay? And this is why artists are being monitored. Every lyrics from the artist, it is scrutinized. And this is why gatherings are restricted, because culture shapes consciousness. And that's why Bobi Wine was dangerous before he entered politics. Because he spoke through the rhythm. He translated pain into language. He turned suffering into identity. And identity is very powerful. Every time election comes, the internet disappears. Think about that. A government confident in its popularity does not fear Wi-Fi. Internet shutdowns reveal this. They reveal panic. It reveals loss of narrative control, reveal fear of documentation, and fear of global visibility. Because today's youths don't need state media. They are the media. Okay? State television speaks to the past. Social media speaks to the present. You can silence a broadcaster, but you cannot silence millions of smartphones. And this is why censorship fails. This is why propaganda collapses. This is why truth travels faster than fear. Let me dismantle the most abused word in Ugandan politics: stability. Stability without opportunity is stagnation. Stability without dignity is imprisonment. Stability without justice is oppression. And many elders say, at least we are at peace. At least, but peace without progress is just quiet suffering. You are suffering in darkness. You know what I mean? To the youths of Uganda, stability means nothing. Stability means a job after school. That's stability. Fair policing, free expression, political rotation, a future worth planning for. So if stability does not include this, then it's not stability, it is containment. Now, one thing I'll say this, there's a tragedy. Elders of Uganda speak from trauma, speak from survival, speak from fear of chaos, but the youth speak from aspiration, speak from frustration, speak from exhaustion. Okay? So when youth shout change, 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 elders hear danger, danger. And when elders say patience, youth hear silence. You know? So this gap is costing Uganda clearly. Families are divided, communities are tense, trust is collapsing, and the state is exploiting this divide instead of healing it. Divide and rule never builds nation. It only delays reckoning. Okay? And the system fears rotation. The system resists rotation because the resistance to change is not ideological. It is existential. And for many in power, leaving office means vulnerability, rotation means accountability, retirement means exposure. So the system fights not for ideology, but for self-preservation. And this is why power becomes permanent. This is why institutions weaken. This is why constitutions are adjusted. Okay? The youths of Uganda are not waiting anymore. That's the truth that scares the governments or the establishment. The youths are no longer asking for permission. They are organizing, they are learning, they are networking, they are observing other African countries and studying global resistance movement. It is only like 3 days or 2 days to election in Uganda, and we are hoping for the best. We will just talk here, but again, you are the one to choose. Tell me what you think on the comment section. Peace out.